In the 3rd year of our marriage, my award-winning actress wife's old flame returned. The man was terminally ill, and his only wish was to have a grand wedding with Victoria Fairchild. The moment Victoria agreed, I instructed my secretary to prepare divorce papers and reclaim all the resources I had provided her. Since she wanted love, I would let them have it. 1. In the 3rd year of my marriage to Victoria, her old flame showed up at my door with a critical illness notice. Ethan Cole stood at the entrance, his face ashen. Mr. Morgan, please let Victoria and me be together. I don't have much time left. My only dying wish is to become truly husband and wife with Victoria. Listening to his fragmented account, I finally pieced together the story. Ethan was Victoria's first love. They had debuted together after participating in a talent show. At that time, due to family conflicts, Victoria had never revealed her identity as a Fairchild heiress. They lived together in a cramped basement apartment, trying to make it in the entertainment industry. But Victoria's acting career struggled initially, barely making ends meet. Ethan stayed with her through 2 tough years but eventually left her. Only after they separated did he discover he had leukemia. He bore the illness alone until his condition worsened recently. I carefully examined the diagnosis report he handed me and asked coolly, "So, what do you intend by coming to me today?" Ethan looked at me, his eyes red. "No, this is wrong, but I'm begging you, please let Victoria and me be together." I was speechless. This plot felt ripped straight from a cheesy soap opera. My tone turned cold. "Oh? So you're the homewrecker coming here to force my hand, is that it?" He tremblingly pulled out a stack of chemotherapy bills, his voice choked with emotion. "And Mr. Morgan, please have a heart. You and Victoria are both successful. A divorce won't affect you much, but marrying Victoria is my only wish before I die." And faced with such an unreasonable demand, I couldn't continue the conversation. I gave him an ultimatum, and then have Victoria talk to me herself. Before the words left my mouth, Victoria burst through the door. "Sincere, don't make things difficult for Ethan. His health is very poor." I was silent. It seemed this wouldn't be resolved easily. Ethan quickly grabbed Victoria's arm. "Victoria, I came to see Mr. Morgan on my own." Victoria paused, then turned to me. "Sincere, I didn't mean to hide this from you. I only recently found out how sick Ethan is." I waited quietly for her to finish. The fact that Ethan could find me here clearly meant they had already met privately many times. Sure enough, she bit her lip and continued, "So wanted to tell you after your birthday tomorrow, but since you already know." She took a deep breath. Let's get a divorce." Victoria and I had known each other since childhood, but I went abroad to study business after high school, so we knew little about each other's intervening years. Still, I chose to marry her because I genuinely had feelings for her. We reconnected at a family gathering 5 years ago. Victoria had a reserved personality and preferred staying in corners alone. As a seasoned businessman, I was outgoing and talkative. In our interactions, I always initiated conversation, and she gave brief replies. After that gathering, we rarely contacted each other. About a month later, she started appearing frequently where I was. Anyone with eyes could see she liked me. Her stunning looks, combined with an elegant, ethereal quality, were exactly my type. 2. I once asked her why she chose me. She replied, "One being with you is easy." Thinking back now, it was less about ease and more that I was a safe harbor for her to escape the memory of Ethan, coupled with the fact that our families were of similar standing. Now Ethan had shown up with a critical illness notice. I had instantly become the stumbling block to their reunion. Victoria said, "Sincere, all these years, Ethan gave up treatment opportunities for me. I'm all he has left now. I can't abandon him again. And after the divorce, you'll still be the CEO of Joe Corporation. Nothing will change for you." Suppressing the nausea and anger rising within me, I sneered. What a performance. You two really know how to play the victim card flawlessly. I'm just the cuckolded husband. while you two are the couple who endured hardships and clung to each other through life and death, right?" Victoria was speechless. Before she could respond, Ethan hastily interjected, "Mr. Morgan, I'm truly sorry." I cut him off immediately. "Shut up. Someone who interferes in other people's marriages has no right to speak here. This is a private family matter between Victoria and me." Victoria immediately stepped in front of Ethan. "Sincere, watch your words. Ethan isn't a third party. We weren't married when he got sick." My chest tightened with anger. A match made in heaven. For a pair of despicable people. I forced down my rage and stared at Victoria. "You know my temper. Tell him to get out right now, or face the consequences." Victoria turned and gently caressed Ethan's cheek. "Ethan, go back to your hospital room and rest first. I'll come find you after I've dealt with things here." Ethan coughed weakly a few times and reluctantly turned to leave. I sat on the sofa watching coldly. How ironic. My own home had become the stage for their drama. I turned away, disgusted by the scene. Who knew that just as Ethan took 2 steps, he suddenly started coughing violently, lost his balance, and stumbled towards me. He crashed heavily into me, knocking me off the sofa. My forehead slammed hard against the corner of the coffee table. I saw stars. I touched my forehead, my hand coming away covered in blood. Instinctively, I retaliated, swinging a fist at his face. 3. Only then did Victoria react, rushing over to help Ethan up first, carefully checking his condition. "Sincere, are you crazy? How could you hit a sick person?" I looked up at her. She was holding Ethan tightly, constantly soothing him. She snapped at me. "If you want to hit someone, hit me, he's so weak. How could you lay a hand on him?" After confirming Ethan wasn't seriously hurt, Victoria finally noticed my condition. Seeing the wound on my forehead, she panicked and said, "You're bleeding." Ha! Finally remembered I exist. I felt dizzy. Seeing her constantly hovering over Ethan, it was clear I couldn't count on her to check my injury. I pulled out my phone and called the police. Hearing me dial, Victoria quickly said, "Don't blow this out of proportion." I knew exactly what she meant. If the police got involved, both families would inevitably find out. She would lose control of the situation. Her plan was obviously to resolve this privately first, then inform the elders. And by deed resolve, she meant using sob stories and emotional blackmail to force me to comply. Her shamelessness was breathtaking. I must have been blind to marry a woman like this. The hospital examination showed I had a mild concussion. The forehead wound looked scary but didn't require stitches. Victoria retained enough sense to drive me to the hospital herself and persuaded me to withdraw the police report. To prevent our parents from troubling Ethan, she sent him to a different hospital. Considering our family's reputations, I agreed to withdraw the case. Besides, the launch of our family's joint project was next month. Negative publicity now would have too great an impact. This damn couple wasn't worth jeopardizing my business interests. This project represented half a year of my father's hard work. Any negative news could derail everything. Initially, my father had wanted to partner with another family. The Fairchilds weren't his first choice. He only reluctantly chose the Fairchilds because of my relationship with Victoria. My mother was the first to arrive at the hospital. My father was still out of town on business, and the Fairchilds hadn't received the news yet. My mother was still in the dark about Victoria's betrayal, which made sense. Even I had only found out today. It completely ruined my weekend. After checking my injuries, my mother, still treating Victoria like her own daughter, asked with concern, "Victoria, what happened here?" 4. Victoria sat silently nearby, her gaze lost somewhere outside the window. My mom frowned, looking between us. Something feels off here? She had always sided with Victoria. Our families had been friends for generations, and she and Victoria's mother were inseparable, like sisters. Seeing neither of us speak, she immediately started lecturing me. "Sincere, you need to change that temper of yours. Victoria is such a virtuous girl. You should be more tolerant." I knew she was trying to save face for both families. Usually I would go along with it and let it drop, but today I couldn't bear it anymore. Mom, Victoria hooked up with her ex-boyfriend, Ethan Cole, the one with leukemia. They came to my office today and even threatened me to initiate the divorce. My mother's words caught in her throat. Victoria was still trying to justify Ethan's actions. Unsincere, you don't understand Ethan's situation. Our past relationship. You just wouldn't get it. My mother's expression froze for a moment. Her gaze darted between us, finally settling on my wound. Her voice was already laced with ice. Did that man do this to you? Victoria, clearly oblivious to the danger, continued to explain, Well, Mom, Ethan really didn't mean to. He feels terrible about it now. Before she could finish, my mother raised her hand and delivered a resounding slap. The room fell instantly silent. What kind of accident involves a sick man knocking someone over like this? My mother's voice trembled. Aunt Victoria, I truly treated you like my own daughter. I'm not an idiot. Victoria clutched her cheek, staring at my mother in disbelief. Mrs. Morgan. Just then her phone suddenly rang. She hesitated for a few seconds, then rejected the call. It was clearly Ethan calling. A moment later, a message notification sounded on her phone. After reading it, Victoria immediately became agitated. I'm sorry, Ethan's condition isn't good at the hospital. I have to go see him. My mother tried to stop her, but I shook my head. Let her go. Her mind was already elsewhere. Keeping her here would only increase the awkwardness. Victoria hurried away, not even bothering to say goodbye. 5. After Victoria left, my mother hugged me, her eyes red, sincere. I comforted her gently, patting her shoulder. She had been pampered her whole life, with a gentle disposition, and had never experienced anything like this. That slap today was likely the most drastic reaction she'd ever had. By the time Victoria's mother, Isabel Fairchild, arrived, I was already back home. She was even angrier than my mother. After hearing the whole story, she immediately wanted to go find Victoria and settle scores. Seeing the bandage on my head, she stamped her foot in fury. That reckless girl, has she been spoiled rotten? Throwing away years of relationship just like that, and hurting someone? I sighed silently. Honestly, a major reason I chose to marry Victoria was because of her reasonable mother-in-law. After venting her anger, she looked at me sympathetically. Sincere, you've really been wronged. Don't worry, that man won't get away with this. As for Victoria, I'll definitely teach her a lesson this time. Although she said that, I knew in my heart that this marriage was beyond saving. I had figured it out while I was at the hospital. If I hadn't known about Ethan's existence, maybe I could have continued to work on this relationship. But now that the truth was out, it was like a glass of clear water poisoned. It could never go back to what it was. Especially with her heart still attached to an old flame who could pass away at any moment. I couldn't live forever in someone else's shadow. I thought about the promises we had made. She would continue pursuing her acting dream. I would manage my business well. Have a child at 30. Start traveling the world at 40. All those beautiful expectations had turned to dust. The next day, it was supposed to be my birthday. The carefully planned surprise party was naturally canceled. Instead, there was a business meeting concerning the interests of both families. Our marriage involved corporate cooperation between our two families. Its dissolution would inevitably affect the stock market. The upcoming product launch would probably have to be postponed as well. Victoria had been forcibly summoned back by her father, Arthur Fairchild. Her hasty departure yesterday was because Ethan had suddenly developed a high fever at the hospital, and his condition was critical. Whether this episode was real or feigned, probably only he knew. I had people investigate Ethan's background overnight. He was indeed pitiful, bankrupted by medical treatments and abandoned by all his relatives. 6. To treat his leukemia, he had spent almost everything, even resorting to working as a gigolo in a club. Now, just as his condition had slightly stabilized, the high cost of treatment became unsustainable. After seeking help everywhere to no avail, someone somehow informed him that Victoria, although having retreated from the limelight, was now a multimillionaire as the heiress of the Fairchild Corporation. So he returned to the city, seeking out Victoria, trying to rekindle their old relationship. Looking at his plight, I couldn't muster a shred of pity. He should have considered this possibility when he chose to break up with Victoria. As an adult, before making a decision, one should weigh the pros and cons and consider all potential consequences. Even so, if he had sought reconciliation after his condition stabilized, while Victoria was still unmarried, I might have understood. But he chose this particular moment to reappear, and even came to my home to cause trouble. When Victoria learned about this, instead of considering my feelings, she started applying emotional pressure. Completely disregarding our family's business ties, her only focus was divorcing me. This damn couple was just looking for trouble. Inside the Fairchild family estate, both families were present. My father had rushed back overnight. Without a word, Arthur Fairchild delivered a resounding slap across Victoria's face. The blow was forceful, leaving a bright red handprint on Victoria's fair cheek. Arthur usually doted on this daughter and had never laid a hand on her before. Victoria stubbornly bit her lip, enduring it in silence. As Arthur raised his hand for a second strike, my father finally reacted, stopping him. "And Arthur, calm down first. Let's discuss the children's matter properly." They were business partners of many years, a friendship forged through shared struggles. Held back by my father, Arthur still couldn't resist slapping Victoria again before saying angrily, "How can we talk properly about this shameless thing? If I don't teach her a lesson today, she'll give me a heart attack sooner or later." Fooling around behind his back is one thing, but daring to let that kind of person trouble Sincere. I didn't know if Victoria was genuinely foolish or if Ethan had fed her some kind of potion. At this moment, it was clear that Arthur needed to first give my family an explanation, give his old friend an explanation, which was why he hit her. After the punishment, they could discuss the divorce terms and subsequent arrangements. We had reached the negotiation stage, but Victoria just had to interject, "Dad, Ethan isn't that kind of person. He really needs me right now." I clearly saw a flicker of unconscious child insane cross Arthur's face. Isabel said, "You're clearly blinded by emotion," Victoria retorted. "I'm perfectly clear-headed. I know what I'm doing." And 7, "Victoria, my mom," Isabel finally exploded. "Don't call me mom back then. You insisted on entering the entertainment industry, saying we were restricting your life, wanting to cut ties with the family. When we let you go, even secretly paved the way for you, supported you. You finally gained some fame, and now you pull this stunt, abandoning even basic moral principles. How could a brainless thing like you be my daughter?" "Victoria." After a dead silence, Arthur roared, "Kneel." Seeing Arthur about to strike again, my father gave me a look, signaling me to intervene. I didn't move. I was furious and deeply disillusioned. So I continued sitting there, watching this farce, letting Arthur's anger escalate. I wasn't one to let things go easily, not since I was a child. Yesterday, Victoria let her old flame cause a scene in my home, getting me injured. Although I wouldn't seek revenge on Ethan, considering he was already at death's door, the main culprit was Victoria. Ethan only dared to trouble me because Victoria allowed it. Ultimately, it was all Victoria's fault. Right now, she was still defending Ethan, even trying to use this negotiation to bring him back into her life. She had absolutely no regard for me, her husband. So, if she didn't learn a lesson today, I couldn't swallow this. If it weren't for the business relationship between our families and the genuine kindness Arthur and Isabel had shown me over the past 3 years, I might have even taught her a lesson myself. Just then, the unexpected happened. Before Arthur could strike again, Ethan burst in. He pushed past the servants trying to stop him and rushed into the living room, his face pale. Seeing Victoria kneeling, he didn't hesitate to kneel beside her. He said weakly, "Mr. Fairchild, Mrs. Fairchild, it's all my fault. If you need to hit someone, hit me. No wonder Victoria said such stupid things today. Spending too much time with this kind of person must have lowered her IQ. Of course, she wasn't exactly brilliant to begin with. Meeting Ethan again just added the debuff of being utterly love-struck, the kind that made her completely irrational. However, in the eyes of someone in love, perhaps they never realize how pathetic such behavior truly is. 8. Putting on a melodrama right there. Ethan watched Arthur lower his cane and spoke weakly. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild. Arthur and Isabel exchanged a look. I could see the palpable disgust and embarrassment on their faces, as if they'd swallowed bitter medicine. I tactfully rose. And Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild, I'll step out for a moment to let you talk. My parents also stood up. Arthur, we'll head out first then. I had the leverage to leave. Let's see if Victoria dared to let me walk away. If I left, her status in the entertainment industry would likely plummet with uncertain consequences. Not to mention the upcoming new project. If our families broke ties, the Fairchild stood to lose a significant amount of money. 3 years ago, when Victoria and I got married, her career was at a low point. I recognized her acting talent and invested in several projects that made her famous again. We were deeply in love back then, so marriage felt like the natural next step. Sure enough, just as I was about to leave, Arthur blocked my path. Sincere, you stay. They are the ones who should leave. He continued, "And the Fairchild family has wronged you. Let's finalize the divorce today. As compensation for your losses, you can have any share you want in all the projects we've invested in. If you don't mind, you can consider me your godfather." I shook my head. My father also stepped forward to soothe him. "Old friend, don't be impulsive. Let's sort out the family matters first." Ever since Ethan arrived, I had been watching this damn couple closely, and I finally caught him red-handed. He deliberately pinched himself, feigning weakness, and crawled towards Arthur. Mr. Fairchild, trying to gain sympathy with his pitiful, sick act. His acting wasn't bad. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong moment. Arthur kicked him away. "So get out." It wasn't a light kick, it sent Ethan sprawling. Ethan curled up in pain, coughing violently. Both he and Victoria panicked. She rushed to help him, and just like yesterday, he started coughing up blood. This time, he stayed quiet, just wiping the blood from his mouth. Victoria screamed at her father, "Tad, how could you attack Ethan so harshly for an outsider?" An outsider. I stared at Victoria. We hadn't even gotten the divorce certificate yet, and she was calling me the outsider? Before I could speak, Victoria turned on me, yelling, "Sincere, it's just a divorce. Do you have to make such a big deal out of it?" 9. I couldn't hold back any longer. To hell with business dealings. I lashed out. "Victoria, are you fucking crazy? After the stunt you pulled today, calling you shameless is a compliment." Victoria sneered. "Say Ethan isn't a homewrecker? Fine, show me your marriage certificate with him, and I'll go to court right now and sue you for bigamy." "Victoria." She finally shut up. But Ethan suddenly interjected, Mr. Morgan." I cut him off sharply. "While I'm still her legal husband, watch your mouth." "Oh right, I remember now. Aren't you just some gigolo people can pay for?" "Ethan, the gigolo." Ethan's face instantly turned deathly pale, and he swayed on his feet. Victoria quickly supported him, then rounded on me again, furious, "Sincere, don't go too far. Ethan only worked part-time at that club to pay for his treatment." Watching this melodrama, listening to this idiotic defense, my stomach churned. But before I could throw up, Victoria fainted. Even worse, the blood test results came back. She was pregnant. 3 months along, unquestionably mine. Staring at the lab report, a chill spread through me. Was this plot determined to reach the peak of melodrama? The divorce negotiations were temporarily put on hold because of this child. The attending physician recommended she be hospitalized for observation. saying her extreme emotional fluctuations these past few days posed a risk of miscarriage. Victoria hadn't initially come with me to the hospital. Isabel must have called to tell her about the pregnancy. She arrived at my hospital room in the evening. Only then did I catch a flicker of hesitation on her face, just a tiny bit, gone in an instant. After a long silence, she asked, "Sincere, what do you want to do?" I countered, "What do you think?" She was silent for a long time before finally saying, "Sincere, let's terminate it." Although I had anticipated this outcome, my heart still clenched painfully. I admit the thought of forgiveness had crossed my mind. Just for a moment when I saw the lab report, but like her hesitation, it was fleeting. After a long pause, I said, "You can go, Victoria." 2 days later, she checked out of the hospital. She scheduled the procedure for the following week. 10. After I returned home, Arthur Fairchild called me. He said if I was willing to let Victoria carry the child to term, the child would inherit all future assets of the Fairchild Corporation. Victoria would be completely cut off from the Fairchild business. If I didn't want the child, he was willing to formally adopt me as his godson and, just as he'd said in anger, transfer 30% of the company's equity to me. It was both compensation and an expression of apology. I politely declined the offer. Victoria was Victoria. Her parents were her parents. Though I held grudges, I knew how to distinguish between them. These past few days, my mother followed me around like a shadow, afraid I'd do something rash. Honestly, I wanted to tell her to stop. I, the main party involved, wasn't crying my eyes out all day, yet her eyes turned red every time she saw me. By the next day, I couldn't stand it anymore and had my assistants send her off to find my father. Her emotions were too intense. She was interfering with my planning on how to make Victoria leave penniless, and how to recover the luxury apartment and expensive watches she bought for Ethan, all paid for with my hard-earned money. We had signed a prenuptial agreement. Assets before marriage remained separate. Besides, she didn't have much personal wealth. Because she had repeatedly failed in her ventures in entertainment and business, Arthur, despite giving her the title of president, had granted her no real power or shares. Basically, she was just a high-paid employee. However, over the past 3 years, we had jointly invested in film projects, and her net worth had grown into the millions. I wasn't letting her keep a single cent of that. I don't do losing deals. Just as I finished discussing strategies with my lawyer, Ethan blocked my path outside the company building. I knew why he was here again. Victoria had been forced by her parents to handle handover procedures at the company these past few days, leaving her no time to see him. This was the Fairchild's way of giving my family an explanation and stabilizing the situation. Victoria was about to be kicked out by her father. Ethan's attempts to use his illness as leverage had failed when he brought his medical records to disrupt the family negotiation. Not only did Arthur and Isabel dismiss him, but Isabel even slapped him several times. This time he didn't mention his illness. He stopped me and said, "Sincere, Victoria never loved you. Her heart only has room for me. If I hadn't been absent back then, why would she have married you? What right do you have to tie her down with a child now? Son, you accused me of emotional blackmail before. Isn't what you're doing now also emotional blackmail? Isn't it just as shameless?" Then he rambled on about their past together. But me, emotional blackmail? Me, shameless? His double standard was almost laughable. But I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. The best way to deal with a lovesick fool is to fight fire with fire. 11. I looked at him, affecting a sincere expression. "Did you have any idea how many other men Victoria has on the side?" Our kind of marriage of convenience never had any real emotional basis. We both did our own thing. From what I gather, she's hooked up with enough men outside to fill several poker tables. You're just the only side piece brave enough to come make a scene. Ethan shuddered. Impossible. Recalling the information from my investigation a few days ago, I sneered. Otherwise, why do you think she could get pregnant with my child? Is this your so-called true love? Ethan's face instantly drained of color. I didn't want to recall that night. That day, Victoria had been exceptionally tender, compensating out of guilt. We had planned to have a child this year anyway, so we hadn't used protection, and it just happened. She came back very late that night, probably after spending time with Ethan. I had naively thought she was genuinely working late, even left work early to make her favorite soup and waited for her at home. Seeing me waiting, a flicker of guilt crossed her eyes. But at the time, I thought it was because I had waited so long with the soup. I leaned in and kissed her. Swallowing down my nausea, I continued to provoke Ethan. "Did you know why you had to come make trouble? Isn't it because Victoria was hesitant to mention divorce, considering our family's businesses, and you couldn't wait any longer? So you had to jump out and pull these stunts yourself. Since you went to the Fairchild's house to cause a scene, wasn't that just to make my family disgusted and force them to agree to the divorce because you were afraid Victoria would eventually compromise?" Ethan was speechless. I gave him a contemptuous look. "Don't talk about true love. You just wanted to use your illness to find someone to lean on." But then suddenly remembering something I'd recently discovered, I added, "If Victoria found out about the things you've done behind her back, do you think she would still forgive you?" Ethan took several deep breaths to calm himself. I pushed past him and walked away, so I didn't see the malicious glint in his eyes as he watched my retreating back. 12. 2 days later, on my way home from work, just as I was about to enter my residential complex, a black car suddenly swerved wildly towards me. I instinctively dodged sideways, but was still knocked to the ground. Although the injuries weren't severe, the moment I saw Ethan get out of the driver's seat, I immediately closed my eyes and lay perfectly still. Then I dialed the police. Hospitalized for the second time. "Well done, Ethan." Half a month later, I received a set of divorce papers, accompanied by the medical report from Victoria's abortion procedure. My father stood by the hospital room window, hands tucked into his suit pockets, his voice low, sincere. "Don't keep your emotions bottled up. Seeing you pretend like nothing's wrong, it hurts me as your father." I straightened my shirt collar, replying flatly, "I'm fine." His words did hit the mark. I was born with the tendency to swallow my pain. When I finally couldn't swallow anymore, I would break down. My grandfather's death 5 years ago was the most painful time of my life. My mother was busy managing the company and left me in my grandfather's care. He raised me single-handedly from childhood. After he passed, I outwardly pretended everything was normal, handling company affairs, but in reality, I tossed and turned every night, unable to sleep. Eventually, my body gave out. In a daze. During an important business negotiation, I suddenly fainted and broke my leg. It was precisely that accident that sparked the idea of spending my life with Victoria. During that hospital stay, she dropped all her work to stay by my bedside, meticulously taking care of my every need. Even basic things, like using the restroom, she assisted me with. For 2 whole months, she never once complained. Lying in the hospital bed, I would often lean against her shoulder, listening to her softly hum tunes, feeling an unprecedented sense of peace. Back then, she had shed her celebrity aura and became gentle and lovely. I couldn't help but ask, "Tunch, why are you willing to take care of me like this?" She playfully pinched my cheek. "Silly, you're the most important person to me. Who else would I be good to?" Thinking back now, it was all a facade. She was merely compensating for the guilt she felt towards Ethan. A few days ago, Ethan had shown up and recounted their entire history, including the truth about their breakup. That year, Ethan had a relapse and fainted. Victoria was out of town for a work engagement. He lay alone in his cold rented room for an entire day. When he woke up, he dragged his weak body to the hospital. Lying in the hospital bed, he called Victoria countless times. But she, rushing to meet filming deadlines, had put her phone on silent and worked non-stop on set. When she finished work and returned to the hotel, she was exhausted and fell asleep immediately, only to rush back to the set before dawn the next day. That incident became the final straw for Ethan, and he chose to leave. The tenderness I once thought gave me security turned out to be her compensation to her ex. Now that the old lover had returned, that very tenderness became a weapon tormenting me. No wonder Ethan dared to provoke me so recklessly, even resorting to breaking the law. Victoria's guilt towards him ran too deep. She always unconditionally forgave his mistakes. Except this time, she probably couldn't forgive him. The day after I was discharged from the hospital, Victoria came looking for me. She came to plead for my forgiveness for Ethan. 13. Ethan's calculation was that, given his serious illness, even if something happened to me, he could get medical parole. But he didn't expect to lose control during the police interrogation, blurting out, "That man deserved to die. As long as I could put him in the hospital, Victoria would come back to me." And I had already provided the police with the security footage from the first incident, when he broke into my house and pushed me, causing the collision. Now Ethan had been detained for over half a month. Victoria was pulling strings everywhere, trying to get him released. Seeing it was hopeless, she came to me, hoping I would write a letter of forgiveness. She even promised that if I let Ethan off the hook, she would drop the divorce. She guaranteed she would never have any contact with Ethan again, send him abroad for treatment, and never see him again for the rest of her life. I truly didn't know where she got the confidence to say such things, thinking I would play along with her charade like some character in her dramas. Maintain the marriage, forcing me to watch her pretentious act every day? Since we were destined to part ways, wasn't letting Ethan reflect in prison for a while, acquiring a criminal record, more satisfying than letting him walk away scot-free? I looked at her coldly. "And since you care about him so much, why bother begging me? Why not serve his time for him? Wouldn't that prove your true love even better?" My father kicked Victoria out. Before she left, I threw the divorce agreement in front of her. She glanced at it and immediately protested indignantly. "Owned her property and vehicles I bought for Ethan were purchased with my personal income." A sarcastic smile touched my lips. "Cut the crap. Assets acquired during the marriage belong to both spouses. If you don't return them obediently, I'll sue him for extortion. Just the luxury apartment, the imported sports car, plus the cash you gave him that's enough to keep him in prison for several years. Add the current charge of intentional assault, multiple offenses combined. I guarantee he'll have plenty of time to get his illness treated. In one, maybe we can see whose lawyer is more capable. Or do you think your parents would burn bridges with our family for a man who lives off his looks?" Victoria became even more agitated. "Why should I have to leave with nothing?" I shot her a cold glance. "You don't have to leave with nothing. If you don't mind tomorrow's entertainment headlines screaming, 'Famous actress's adultery scandal instigates lover to harm wealthy husband.' Victoria." 14. Once the scandal broke, the market value of Fairchild Corporation plummeted instantly. Finally, Victoria signed the divorce papers in the presence of lawyers. Watching Victoria's retreating figure, my father showed a hint of disappointment. "This girl is finished." I was somewhat puzzled. Turning to my father, I asked, "What exactly did you do?" A cold smile played on my father's lips. "So you think I'd let her off after what she did to my son?" I silently grumbled to myself. "Haven't you only cared about the company's development all these years? When did you ever prioritize me or son?" Just then, the butler announced a visitor. The visitor was a young entrepreneur. He looked vaguely familiar. After a moment, I remembered he was the head of the up-and-coming Joe family in entertainment. My father led him into the study, and they talked until dusk. I happened to glimpse the documents in their hands, which seemed related to my father's new endorsement plan. Was my father preparing to abandon the partnership with the Fairchild Corporation? At that moment, I suddenly felt a faint warmth of paternal love. However, this feeling needed further verification. 3 months later, the court sentenced Ethan Cole to 3 months in prison. While processing the divorce at the city hall, Victoria was still making sarcastic remarks. "And sincere, you should be satisfied now, right?" I held up the divorce certificate, responding lightly, "Ons indeed." My wish came true. Just as I was about to walk out the door, I suddenly stopped and turned back to her. "Oh, and by the way, let me tell you something. Ethan was originally supposed to be sentenced to a year. Do you know who spent a fortune hiring top lawyers to defend him? I continued. Also, Ethan hadn't inquired about you for years despite his leukemia. Why did he suddenly find out about your status as president of Fairchild Corporation? Victoria's head snapped up abruptly. I turned and strode away, not giving her another glance. Such a love-struck fool. Only concerned about Ethan's suffering, never questioning why he reappeared at this specific time, after his 3-month sentence ended. Victoria personally went to pick Ethan up from prison. How did I know this? Paparazzi had specifically staked out the place and captured the scene. When our families terminated their cooperation, both companies' stock prices were affected, but our Joe Corporation quickly recovered. My father didn't hesitate to publicize the scandal of Victoria's affair and her keeping Ethan referred to as a male model. He took the moral high ground to condemn Victoria, leading to her and Ethan becoming targets of online criticism. My father seized the opportunity to sign a new endorsement deal with the popular Joe Entertainment Group, gaining significant media attention. It seemed my father did care about me after all, willing to burn bridges with the Fairchilds to avenge me, although he also used the situation for a bit of publicity. 15. To salvage the company's image, Arthur first removed Victoria from the management team, then effectively exiled her, much like years ago. He also announced to the media that the Fairchild family would take absolutely no responsibility for Ethan's medical expenses. I always knew Arthur and Isabel were proud, but I hadn't expected them to be so decisive. After all, Ethan was the man Victoria loved deeply. My father visited the Fairchilds a few days ago and mentioned something intriguing. Arthur found out some inside information, my father told me, his gaze meaningful. It turned out Ethan had been sent back by a competitor of Fairchild Corporation. Over a year ago, that company had lost a major project bid to the Fairchilds and harbored resentment. They planned to drive a wedge between my family and the Fairchilds. If our two families split, Fairchild Corporation's strength would inevitably be diminished. By chance, the competitor's CEO encountered a gravely ill Ethan while traveling. That CEO, malicious in intent, had a secret meeting with Ethan. He promised to cover Ethan's substantial medical expenses on the condition that Ethan break up my marriage with Victoria. Upon learning the truth, Arthur furiously berated Victoria. "Until you fell into someone else's trap, you idiot," Victoria retorted. "So what if it was a trap? I couldn't just stand by and watch Ethan die. Am I supposed to let him die just for your business, for that bit of connection with the Morgan family?" Arthur fell silent. Then he countered. "So Sincere's career and future don't matter?" Victoria argued. "It was just bad timing. Sincere never really had much ambition anyway, right?" Arthur scoffed, a humorless laugh escaping him. "Paul, how have Sincere and his future prospects wronged you? Not only did you hurt him, but now you're trying to shift the blame onto him." Arthur delivered his final ultimatum. The Fairchild family will never accept someone as irresponsible as Ethan, just like you. Based on his actions alone, letting him into this family would be pushing us into a fire pit. If you insist on being with him, then leave. From now on, everything concerning the Fairchild family has nothing to do with you." Victoria chose Ethan. Thinking back now, when I asked Ethan if Victoria would forgive him if she knew what he'd done, his confident ensues turned out to be absolutely correct. 16. Watching Victoria leave Fairchild Corporation like a stray dog, I chuckled inwardly. This was just the beginning. Just wait and see. The big gift I had prepared would surely let this damn couple experience the true taste of love. I sought out a particular individual, an unremarkable woman, yet unique in her own way. She had been a nurse during Ethan's previous hospitalizations, offering care and support during his lowest point. I spent some money to arrange for this nurse, Chloe Carter, to move into the apartment next door to Ethan and Victoria. I had chosen her carefully, tracking her down from Ethan's former medical team. The reason was simple. Nurse Carter still carried a torch for Ethan. Since this despicable couple wanted to stage a melodrama about a patient reuniting with his lover and tormenting the original spouse, I decided to help them upgrade the plot. Let's see if that memorable nurse-patient relationship from the past could add some fuel to this dramatic fire. A month later, I ran into Ethan at the hospital during his checkup. His face was pale, dark circles under his eyes, looking utterly haggard. Was this supposed to be a happy life? I soon understood why. From the end of the corridor, I heard Victoria's hysterical questioning. "What right do you have to go see that woman? Are the things that happened back then really that unforgettable?" Another 3 months passed. At a high-end club, I witnessed quite a show. Victoria had finally landed a role in a new drama. Amusingly, I'd secretly pulled some strings to make this happen. My apologies to Mr. Fairchild. The pay was good, but there was a catch. The male lead was a notorious womanizer who frequently got handsy during filming, especially when he knew Ethan would be visiting the set. He seemed to relish escalating things. After all, it would be strange if a female star didn't have a few wealthy suitors buzzing around. Today was one such performance. I sat in a private booth upstairs, watching the farce unfold in the open private room below. The open door gave me a perfect view of the drama. I saw Ethan pointing at the male actor, spewing curses, "Low-life scum, how dare you try to seduce my wife?" A torrent of foul language poured out, making Victoria's face even uglier than his words. She quickly apologized to the actor, then roared at Ethan. "Shut up, we were just rehearsing a scene." Ethan sneered. "All that hugging and touching, why? Don't you just get a room already?" The club was filled with the city's elite, all currently transformed into avid spectators, thoroughly enjoying the show. 17. I had the best seat in the house. An uninvited guest even snagged some of my snacks. I watched as Victoria finally reached her breaking point amidst Ethan's incessant verbal abuse. She slapped him hard across the face. "Get out." She trembled with anger, tears welling in her eyes, looking both pitiful and hateful. Ethan clutched his face but didn't leave. Instead, he started digging up old grievances. "Intern, when I was sick, you ignored me. I suffered alone with this illness for years, and now you treat me like this. Don't you have a conscience?" It seemed they had argued frequently about these things lately. Victoria retorted coldly, "Are you sure you were alone?" Crunch. A loud sound of someone eating snacks came from nearby, drowning out Victoria's final word. I couldn't tell if she muttered it shameless or bastard. Annoyed, I turned. "Could you please be quiet?" The person offered an apologetic smile. "Sorry to disturb you. Allow me to buy you a latte as an apology." The sharp sound startled me, and suddenly the whole drama felt tedious, especially seeing Victoria's current state, so different from the gentle, considerate woman in my memory. It made me sick. From the moment Ethan reappeared until now, the anger that had been simmering inside me suddenly extinguished. Whatever lingering feelings I had for Victoria completely evaporated. I cast one last glance at the tense couple in the room below and got up to leave. Silently, I offered them my blessings. May you grow old together and stay devoted forever, and I prayed I would never see them again in this lifetime. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. 2 years later, I saw Victoria again. It was the 1-month celebration for the Fairchild's young son. Both my parents were away on business and had asked me to attend and give a gift on their behalf. Although our families interacted less after my divorce from Victoria, the old camaraderie between my father and Arthur Fairchild remained. I had never blamed the elders, so I went, only to walk in on Victoria kneeling and begging her parents to save Ethan. Time had passed, and I felt nothing for her anymore. But what she said still shocked me. Ethan was in a vegetative state. The reason? Victoria herself had pushed him down the stairs, causing severe brain damage. Even more absurdly, she had done it solely to prevent him from divorcing her. Over the past 2 years, they had argued constantly. Ethan wanted out. Victoria refused point blank. Ethan started giving her the cold shoulder, pressing her to sign the papers. But Victoria, prioritizing her acting career, endured the emotional abuse rather than let go. 18. I knew that even though the Fairchilds had ignored Victoria for the past 2 years, she was still their only daughter at the time, and a share of the Fairchild Corporation would inevitably be hers eventually. Who knew Arthur and Isabel would pull such a surprise move, having another child, a son, in their 50s? Just like that, Victoria completely lost her inheritance rights. Consequently, Ethan couldn't sit still any longer. He kept urging Victoria to go back to the Fairchilds and admit her mistakes, but Victoria's pride wouldn't allow her to stoop like that. Besides, over the past 2 years, apart from Arthur's initial punishment, her parents had treated her like thin air. Victoria hadn't been idle these 2 years, taking supporting roles in small productions. While it wasn't the glamorous life she had with Fairchild Corp., it at least allowed her to support herself. She had managed to achieve some minor fame. Ethan had pestered her about reconciling with her family for months. Victoria finally resorted to hiding out on set and not coming back. Ethan's go-to tactic had always been to use his illness to manipulate Victoria. To get her back by his side, he would often claim his illness had relapsed. Unexpectedly, this time when Victoria heard he was hospitalized again, she didn't even visit, instead taking a role in a project out of town. Ethan, furious, decided to get himself actually hospitalized to force Victoria to return, face the family issues. However, he played with fire and got burned. His condition genuinely worsened, ultimately leaving him in a vegetative state. I had to say, he brought this upon himself. I suddenly remembered long ago when Ethan used his illness as leverage to steal Victoria away from me. Looking at Victoria kneeling on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, I couldn't feel a shred of sympathy. She had known about Ethan's manipulative tactics all along, but had never stopped him. Therefore, for Ethan's current state, she bore responsibility, and he himself was certainly not blameless. Victoria cried, "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry, it's all my fault, I shouldn't have been so willful," insisting on divorcing Sincere and taking Ethan back. "Please, save him, he's still my husband after all." I couldn't be bothered. I turned and walked away quickly, unwilling to get entangled in these old messes any further.